Hi, I'm Jim Frey, James N. Frey. I'm the author of How to Write a Damn Good Novel and How to Write a Damn Good Novel 2, Advanced Techniques, and other books on writing. I taught at the University of California Extension for 25 years or so, and I taught also at Squaw Valley Writers Conference and many other conferences around the world. Now I actually do a little traveling to Europe once in a while to do workshops. So I do workshops at home, and I'm writing another book on creative writing, on romance writing. Keeping busy. Anyway, I'm doing a series of tapes on creative writing, and this is the second one. This one's on characterization, how to do it, how to think about it, and in the future I plan to do others on writing with myth in mind, and building suspense, and writing mysteries, and writing thrillers, and I have a whole bunch of topics I want to cover on YouTube videos, and I hope you'll tune in. About characterization, one of the most important things about characterization in my first book, How to Write a Damn Good Novel, it was so important I spent a whole paragraph on it, or maybe a sentence, I don't know, it was very short. I just mentioned it. And then in the second book I realized it was more important, I gave it a page. Now I realize it's like critical. This is like one of the most important things about fiction writing, is that the characters be orchestrated. That is, they be different from one another, at many different levels. And it's this orchestration that makes your novel feel well textured, and and it creates a lot of conflict, because people who are different have different look at things differently, and there will be a lot of conflicts at all kinds of levels. So, orchestration. So, when you create your characters for your novel or short story or play or screenplay, think of them as being well orchestrated. Okay, I'll put that down. Orchestrated. Almost didn't make it. Huh. Well orchestrated. Anyway, that they're different. To give you an example of a book that I really love, and is Pride and Prejudice. Look at the orchestration between Darcy and Elizabeth. She's sort of middle class, and she thinks of herself as poor. She's intellectual and modest. He is arrogant, super rich, full of himself, totally different. That's the kind of thing that you want in fiction writing. Think of The Godfather, okay? You have The Godfather himself. He's sort of a peasant philosopher. He's thoughtful, he thinks things through, he's and he has his way of looking at things. He's philosophical, has a philosophical viewpoint. What's his wife like? Well, she's very, kind of matronly and motherly, right? What's Sonny like? Sonny's his I guess, second son. And he's hot-blooded, doesn't think things through. He's, charges in, thinks with his fists. And then there's Frito, who's kind of effete and stupid. And then there's our hero, the guy, the Al Pacino character, becomes the new Godfather. All these characters are well orchestrated. They're all different. And because of that, there's a richness to this story. No two are alike. That's what you want to do when you create your story, is to think of your characters as being well orchestrated. And I give you an example in this How to Write a Darn Good Romance that I'm working on. The other books are How to Write a Damn Good. This is How to Write a Darn Good. Because anyway, it's about love. When you think about, I made up these characters to show orchestration. and I have 3 sets of them, or more, maybe more, that I've made in this book to give people the idea how you create orchestrated characters. I create this one character. Her name is Margaret Johnson, called Maggie. So there's Maggie, and she's like typical romance heroine. She's beautiful but doesn't think she is. She's about 5'8", so she's not tall, and she's athletic. She works out, and she's a cop. She's a cop. She's a detective. And she's a good detective. She's very dedicated to her work. She's a young detective. She's still learning her craft. And she's in her, and she comes from a cop family. Okay? Cop family. Her father was a cop. Now, in all my books on creative writing, I talk about that characters should have this I got from Lejos Egri, who wrote a book on playwriting. E-G-R-I, Lejos Egri, L-A-J-O-S. I'll write it up here. And he talked about characters should have, you should know their physical attributes. They should have what he called a physiology. And they should have a sociology, which means they come from a place, a family, a neighborhood. They were brought up in a certain religion or no religion, or certain kinds of schools. And so each character should have a physiology and a sociology. So you think about it, a person who grows up in Upper Manhattan, living in a high-rise with rich parents, and has a girl has her own horse in Central Park, rides around in limousines, has a different worldview than a girl grows up in East Harlem. And the physical attributes of a person, their race, their color, their height, their weight, like a fat kid has a different experience of life than a slender, athletic, beautiful person. Beautiful people, poor things, always end up spoiled. But anyway, well, not always, but in fiction they do. So that the physical attributes, including IQ, including health, including defects and deformities, tattoos, all kinds of things about a person's physical attributes contribute to their character. The sociology also, where and when they grew up, and their attitudes of their parents, the attitudes of their friends, experiences they might have had in the Army or in the Girl Scouts or various places, mold people. We all know that, right? So the physiology and the sociology combine to create the psychology, and that's really what the character is, their psychology. So the character grows up spoiled, rich. They grow up to be arrogant. They grow up to think that they're entitled to wealth and power, and completely different than a person that grows up poor. So this, for Maggie, she grows up in a detective family. Her mother died when she was 4, and her father tried to make her a cop. So she has trouble being a woman because she didn't have any role model. Her father wanted her to be a cop. She thought she was going to be a cop all her life, and she can't quite deal with being a woman and a cop. She's more cop than woman. And then she falls in love at age 20 or 21. She falls in love with a guy named Lenny, who's also a cop, and they become sort of competitors. And she can outshoot him and outthink him, and he leaves her. And he was the love of her life. So she, at age 28, when the story starts, she's broken, romantically in her heart. Most romance heroes are broken. Heroes too. They're in sad shape. But anyway, she's been, yeah, she's been bitter. And she takes up drinking. In fact, she drinks too much. In fact, she's an alcoholic. She doesn't know it, she's in denial about it. I can quit any time, but she's now dependent on alcohol. So when you make your characters orchestrated, you want them to be opposite. So and this I'm making this up for a romance, so who's the opposite? His name is Niccolo Romano. Right? Well, see, she's sort of from a Nordic background, right? She's from Scandinavia, her ancestors. Her father was a cop, and she grew up in the cop culture in this Northern European kind of high work ethic, kind of environment. Nick Romano, he's the opposite. So she grew up in a cop family, and he grew up in a crime family. So it's opposite. So his story is that he grew up in this crime family, but he rejected it. He rejected the idea of being a thug and being a crime boss. And as a result, his family more or less disowned him. And he joined the Navy very young. And he has, in his physiology, he's tall, she's short, he's tall, he's very, he plays racquetball, so he's in shape as well. So they're not well orchestrated that way, but in other ways they are, because he's very secretive. He hides the fact that his family, he's from the Romano crime family. And when he was in the Navy, he learned the computers, and he met a guy who was into investing. He got into investing, and he's now a day trader. So he makes his living as a day trader. So the important thing about this for the story is he has no visible means of support. He could be a hired killer. Nobody knows how he makes his money. He has, corporations and so on. He does very well, but he doesn't like to brag, and he doesn't like to talk about it. And while he was in the Navy, he became, he had a drinking problem. And he realized it. When he got out of the Navy, he joined AA. Or maybe he joined AA when he was in the Navy. I don't remember now. He joins AA, and he becomes, solidly AA, and hasn't had a drink in 5 years. So he's a reformed drunk, and she's a drunk. So that's the way that they're orchestrated. So orchestration is key, really, a very important aspect of creating fiction, is keeping your characters orchestrated. Now I ask people to write, in my classes, I ask people to write biographies of their characters. These biographies don't have to be extremely detailed, but helps if they are. 10 or 15 page biography of your character is not too much to ask, and you'll find it very helpful. I also ask my students to write a diary, and write the characters from the character's viewpoint in their voice in a diary. This is also very helpful to get inside the character. It's like an actor. When I was, I'm always trying to improve my skills as a writer. And one of the things I did years ago to improve my skills was I took acting classes. Improv I was great at. I could make up a character, pretend to be him, no problem. And so when I had to learn somebody else's lines, I kept wanting to change them. So I could never really try out for a play because I couldn't do it. I couldn't memorize, these lines either. So, but I couldn't memorize them, couldn't say them. But improv, boy, I was great. Had a lot of fun doing improv. I recommend improv classes for writers. It's a really good way of learning how to get into a character. And if you're a female, you have to get into a male character just as well as you can get into a female character. Same way with men. You have to be able to get into a female character just as well as you can get into your male characters. It's like, in this case, she's got problems being a woman, so she's got a lot of inner conflicts about, she doesn't really know how to act. Like, I have a friend that went to medical school, and she said that she and her colleagues, when they would, in medical school, when they would go out socially, they'd go to bars, nightclubs, and, you know, they would tell the guys that they were nursing students. You know, it's like women are living on another planet sometimes, you know? It's like if they're too smart or too educated, it scares guys. Guys are not too brave, right? They don't want to be with a woman they think is smarter than they are. So this weird psychology is going on in all these kind of relationships, which are interesting for writers to explore, of course, right? That's what we're in business for. Is we're looking at humanity and saying, look, watch this, see how this works. But anyway, making up characters is so very fundamental and basic to all kinds of fiction. And all my writing books, I talk about this process of making orchestrated characters. Well, I don't think not in How to Write a Damn Good Novel so much, but in the subsequent ones. In the thriller one, and How to Write a Damn Good Thriller, and How to Write a Damn Good Mystery, and now in How to Write a Darn Good Romance. A lot of discussion about making up characters from the ground up, you know, from just sort of starting with a name and an age and a place, and burrowing into that character and how they feel about things and how they see life, what they want. All characters, I recommend, should have a ruling passion. And the ruling passion is something, this is also, I think, one of Vegri's ideas, that a character should have a ruling passion. It's a way of defining the character. Like Maggie, what's her ruling passion? Well, to be a great cop. A character might have a ruling passion to be a great artist or violinist or writer. A character might have a ruling passion to control everyone. Like a guy told me that's what his mother-in-law was like. She wanted to control everybody. That's her ruling passion. And once you understand a character's ruling passion, you understand the character. Like Nick Romano, he wants to become a successful day trader so he can put his life of crime behind him. I mean, his family business far behind him, in the rearview mirror. She wants to be a great cop, right? Of course, she also wants love, right? That's the thing about a romance. The characters in a romance want love. Yeah, well, we all want love, you know? Fiction is more true than nonfiction because fiction is about the experience of the heart, about the experience of what it's really like to be human that nonfiction can never get at. Even psychology, not like fiction can. Fiction can transport you. It can make you dream the fictive dream. I'm going to make a tape about that too, the fictive dream. It's getting the reader to dream the fictive dream. And once they're dreaming it, you've got them sort of in your power. It's a very powerful thing, this trance that the reader goes in when they read great fiction. And I hope this helps you to write great fiction, and I hope you'll tune into my other videos later. So that's it for characterization. It's very brief, but I hope if you find it helpful. Let me know. My email address is jnfrey @yahoo. Now, of course, I'll be putting that on the screen also, but I discovered that sometimes the things I put on the screen in iMovie disappear later. No, I'm not an expert in iMovie. Yeah. I've been learning it though. It's like learning how to swim the Pacific, I tell you. And in fact, swimming the Pacific may be easier. Anyway, tune in again. Thanks very much for tuning in this time.